What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Educated Barfly. Today we are going to be talking about and making some cocktails from the iconic New York City bar Milk and Honey. So before we get into today's video, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about Winc, who we are partnered up with for this video. This is a service that I used before they ever reached out to us, and quite honestly, it was because of this bottle of wine. My wife and I found this bottle of wine. We were completely obsessed by it, so much so that we had to figure out where to find it. We found out that a company named Winc made it, and we ordered a whole bunch of it. So what is Winc, you ask? Winc is an online wine delivery company, and it's real easy and very convenient. All you got to do is go to their website. You fill out a little 1-minute questionnaire. They ask you about your favorite flavor profiles. They ask whether you like white or red. They ask you about what wine producing regions of the world you like the best. And then they come up with a curated selection of 4 bottles of wine. They have tons of different wines to choose from, no matter what your lifestyle is like or what your dietary preferences are. 100% they have something for you. And they're all affordable. So do yourself a favor, go to the video description below this video, click the link and save yourself some money. $29.95 for 4 bottles of wine, and shipping is included. You can't really beat that. Milk and Honey is probably the most influential bar to come out of the early 2000s. What we know of today is the cocktail renaissance. And they innovated an approach to cocktails that really values simplicity, balance, and craft above all else. They have trained some of the most influential bartenders of the last couple of decades. There is so much that they brought to the table which we now take for granted, such as the Neo Speakeasy Bar, secretive entrances, custom cut ice, posting a list of rules outside the door. Their influence cannot be overstated. Almost every cocktail bar has been influenced by Sasha Petrosky and Milk and Honey in some way. Cocktails as we know it just wouldn't exist as they are without them. Milk and Honey was opened on New Year's Eve in 1999 by Sasha Petrosky at 134 Eldridge Street in New York City's Lower East Side. Petrosky was a New York City native who was first a barista, and his original idea was to open a cafe. But after getting interested in cocktails, he decided to open a bar. And the bar's beginnings was pretty rough. It was really a do-it-yourself kind of deal, and many of the things which became elements that later bars would copy were actually done out of necessity. The space was very unfinished and kind of rough looking. It had a posted list of rules because they couldn't afford to piss off the neighbors or they'd get shut down. There was no signage out front, so it just became kind of a default speakeasy, and it basically in its early years survived by word of mouth. It was just like friends of friends of friends of friends, and that's how they survived. By all accounts, it was not an immediate success, and from what I've read, Petrosky actually wanted it to be slow. He didn't want anyone to know that the bar was there. But as time went on, slowly things began to pick up, and although attention was the last thing that Petrosky wanted, once the press found out about Milk and Honey, they had a field day with it. And if you think about it, a secretive bar that the owner didn't want anyone coming to, serving really well-made drinks, is catnip for the press. However much he didn't want any attention, attention is what he got. But that attention and the popularity of Milk and Honey made it possible for Petrosky to not only consult on other bar programs of many, many, many different bars the world over, it also enabled him and the talented staff that he trained to open many bars under the Milk and Honey banner. One of the best things about Milk and Honey, and what helped to cement its legacy in the bar industry, is that a lot of the Milk and Honey alum carried the torch by going into their business of their own and keeping the approach, the style, and even the recipes of Milk and Honey intact. The Milk and Honey family has opened something like 12 or 13 different bars over the years, many of which are still around. And although Milk and Honey itself was quietly closed on October 25th, 2014, you can still visit it since Michael McElroy and Sam Ross opened Attaboy in the original location. Sasha Petrosky tragically passed away on August 21st, 2015, and although he's gone, we can celebrate him through the legacy he left behind. So without further ado, some cocktails from the Milk and Honey family. Although Sam Ross gets the rock star treatment in the cocktail world, we cannot forget his partner Michael McElroy, who also has quite a few modern classics under his belt. The cocktail that we're doing today is called an American Trilogy, and it was created by Michael McElroy and Richard Boccato at Milk and Honey. I like to say that it kind of comprises the history of American distillation in the glass, with a couple extra elements in there. It's one of my absolute favorite old-fashioned variations, and since we're going into the fall, and we're going to be talking about some stirred cocktails, which do not get enough play and enough respect from you guys, I figured this would be a really good one to do. So first thing we're going to do is grab a brown sugar cube, and we're going to douse it with 4 dashes of orange bitters. Add a little dash of soda. I'm going to take our muddle stick and we're just going to break up the sugar in the bottom of the glass. Now, there's a lot of people that say that simple syrup makes a more consistent old-fashioned, but I really like the sugar cube. It just has more evolution inside the glass, and you get less of just like a one-note cocktail with it. You do get a little pop of sugar at the end, but I like that because once that sugar hits your body, your dopamine releases, and then you want another cocktail. 1 ounce of bonded Applejack, 1 ounce into our glass, 1 ounce of Rittenhouse Rye. This is also 100 proof bonded product. Forgot to cut my ice cube. I like to just notch it on the bottom so that it just fits a little better. Then it kind of gives it a little jewel kind of look to it as well. So you're making old-fashioned style drinks and you use a big rock of ice. You want to let it temper a little bit so that it doesn't crack when it goes inside the glass. Hopefully that we don't crack this. And if it doesn't fit, that's okay, because you can just stir it down. You know, really what's going to give this nice presentation is how the ice fits in the glass. You want to make sure that it's not too tall and that it's not hitting someone's nose as they drink, but at the same time, you want it to fill the volume of whatever glass you have, and you want to make sure that you cut that ice to fit that volume. And then we're just gonna do an orange twist, and we're gonna actually try something new today. I got this Bosca cheese slicer, and we all got this idea from Jeffrey Morgenthaler, who put this on his blog and on his social media, and I've been wanting to try it for a long time. So it's a little safer because of the way that it's shaped, and you also get a better peel. Basically a perfect peel every time is what they say. It's nice and wide too, so you get a nice wide peel. Let's try it. If you don't get a little bit of pith, then you're not going to get very many oils out of the peel when you spritz it over the cocktail. And so you do need a good amount of pith. I know that everyone is like, you don't want to get any pith because it makes bitterness in your cocktail. And while that's technically true, over the life of this cocktail, even if you stuck this peel inside it, you're not going to detect that much bitterness. Not to mention the fact that bitterness, it balances out sweetness. So that bitterness from the peel isn't necessarily a terrible thing. Aha! There it is. Now let's give it a sip. I know that this is one of my favorite cocktails, but let's talk through the flavor profile. So you get a little bit of malt and spice from the Rittenhouse. That particular rye is actually a higher corn content than in some ryes, and so it's not super malty on the finish, and it's also not super spicy, plus you get those bourbon notes. You get a lot of those bourbon notes. You get the Applejack as well. Applejack tastes, it's kind of an interesting flavor. It tastes like an... As soon as I say this, Marius is gonna give me shit. It tastes like an apple version of whiskey. It has like an appliness to it. It's made out of apples, but it doesn't, it's not tasting like sweet apple. It tastes a lot like whiskey. It's also aged product, so you're gonna get a lot of those barrel notes as well. Couple that with the orange bitters and the orange zest, which is bringing both fresh orange and then also that kind of bitter orange on the back palate, which is balancing out the sugar. And then of course you're getting some of those molasses flavors from the Demerara sugar that we used. It's a very nicely balanced cocktail. Here it is, the American Trilogy. So the next cocktail up is called the Debbie Don't. It was created by Zachary Gelna Rubin of Dutch Kills. Speaking of Richard Boccato, Dutch Kills is the Richard Boccato Milk and Honey family bar in Long Island. And the cocktail was named after the ghost that apparently haunts the bathroom. First things first, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice, 1/2 ounce of maple syrup, 1 ounce of Reposado tequila, and 1 ounce of Averna Amaro. Ice. Give it a nice shake. Strain it. Look at this foamy goodness. Foaminess is good because it gets no garnish. There it is, the Debbie Don't. Let's give it a sip. Man, that's so good. So, you would think that the Averna is such a strong flavor profile that you would not taste the Reposado, but the very first thing you taste are those barrel notes and also the minerality and kind of a roasted agave flavor of the tequila. And then it devolves into the bitterness of the Averna, which is offset by the tartness of the lemon juice, and then a little bit of maple syrup, which gives it warmth. It gives it kind of that savory sweetness that we talk about a lot with honey, although it's a little bit stronger in flavor. And what's nice is that you have just a little bit of that maple syrup, which goes a long way. Of course, you're gonna have sugar inside the Amaro, and so we're balancing that out with the lemon. It is a fantastic drink. You get nice aeration, look at that. That is a masterclass in shaking right there, guys. There it is, the Debbie Don't. The next cocktail that we're doing is called a Fallback. It's a Manhattan variation created by Sasha Petrosky himself. It was created for the John Dory Oyster Bar in New York City around 2012. I chose this cocktail for many reasons, but two of the main ones is that it is called the Fallback and we are going back into the fall, which cannot come soon enough because the weather is brutal and I need it to be cold already. And then the other reason is that, again, we're gonna be using Applejack and rye, and a lot of times, if I can, it's nice to pick cocktails that you guys haven't seen yet and that we haven't done on the show too much. And if we can double up on ingredients so that you guys don't have to buy too much when you recreate the cocktails, and that's also a win as well. So we're doing that too. Peychaud's bitters, 2 dashes. And then we're gonna do ½ an ounce of sweet vermouth. I just have a little excess sweet vermouth here. It is Dolan is what I'm pouring, but you can use Carpano Antica for this as well. It would be very nice. ½ an ounce of Amaro Nonino. And then we're gonna do 1 ounce of our Applejack. Again, if you do not have Applejack or access to Applejack, you can use like a VSOP Calvados. And then we're gonna be doing another ounce of rye. I'm gonna take a big old cube and we're gonna crack it. And we're gonna add some ice in like so. And we're just going to stir this until it is sufficiently chilled. We're just going to strain our cocktail like so. Grab our new exciting peeler, give it a spritz. All right, let's give it a sip. Wow, that is freaking fantastic. Ooh, the Creole bitters just plays so well with that sweet vermouth and the Nonino, and they're very nicely balanced. But it also just tastes like fall, you know? You've got the rye whiskey and the maltiness and the spice, and you've got the appley whiskey goodness of the Applejack, and I know those are all very official tasting notes terms for you guys today. And that makes me incredibly happy. So there it is, guys, the Fallback. So the next cocktail we're doing is called a Kentucky Maid. It was created by Sam Ross around 2005. And this cocktail is really perfect to illustrate the philosophy behind Milk and Honey and how they approach their cocktails. This is something that is just very close to, you know, like an East Side or a South Side. It's just little tweaks, but those little tweaks really have, you know, kind of major results. It's a very forgiving recipe. You can do it with any spirit you want. It works with everything. And it's just a fantastic drink. So you are going to recognize this drink as soon as we start putting the ingredients into it. First thing we're gonna do is take 3 English cucumber slices, drop them into our tin. You know, 8 to 10 mint leaves in the bottom of your tin. We're gonna add to that 1 ounce of lime juice, and then 3/4 of an ounce of 1-to-1 simple syrup. We're gonna grab our muddler and give it a nice muddle. 2 ounces of bourbon. We're using the Old Forester, 86 proof. I'm gonna take some ice, put it into our tin. Give it a nice hard shake. And we're just gonna strain the cocktail over our ice like so. I'm gonna drill a hole into it like so. I should actually make kind of a big hole. And we're just gonna feed this through the cucumbers. And there you have Kentucky Maid. So let's talk about the flavor profile. Obviously you get that, it's a lime sour, so you get that lime, you know, but we use 1 ounce of lime, 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup. That simple syrup is gonna be offset by the sweetness of the bourbon a little bit. You have that nice tart lime juice balanced out by the simple syrup, and then you have all of those, you know, kind of sugar, maple, caramel, vanilla notes, with the bourbon tempered a little bit by the citrus and the sugar. As you drink, what's really nice, and why you should always have, if not the cucumbers to make it look pretty, then the mint sprig, is because as you drink, you get a nose full of mint and it really informs the flavor of the cocktail. Again, like I said, it's a very forgiving recipe and you can do this with any spirit you want. It's gonna taste good with everything. So there it is, guys, the Kentucky Maid. All right, guys, that's all we have time for. So I hope this video has been inspiring and informative for you. I hope you have a good understanding of what Milk and Honey was, and go out and make some cocktails, and I'll see you guys in another time.